In the 1970s, the head of a big company, a CEO, made about $1 million a year. That sounds like a lot of money. It was. And it was roughly 20 times more than the average worker in his own company. 20 times. A person could probably live with that. It seems, I don't know, reasonable in a way. The person at the top has more stress, more responsibility, so they get more of the reward, 20 times more. Today, that same CEO makes around $20 million a year, on average, and that is now somewhere between 200 and 300 times more than their average worker. Let that sit for a moment. Not 20 times more, 300 times more. Something broke, something changed in the guts of our society. The work itself didn't change that much. A person building a car or stocking a shelf is doing the same kind of work. The person leading the company is still leading the company. The value of a human being's time and effort didn't suddenly shift by a factor of hundreds. It's not possible. So if it wasn't the work that changed, what did? What happened to us? The answer is strange. It's not about greed, not just greed. It's not about politics, not just politics. It's about a promise that was made, and then a promise that was broken and quietly replaced with a new one. For a long time, after the big wars of the last century, industrial societies were built around a simple idea. The worker was the heart of everything. The person who created value with their hands and their time was the center of the universe. The government, society, the whole system made a basic promise to its people: you will have a good, stable job. A job you can count on for your whole life. Because of this, things were more equal. Unions had power, so they could demand a fair share. This led to good health care, schools that actually worked, and universities that didn't cost a fortune. The whole machine was pointed toward making life better for the working person, the middle class. That was the deal. But in the 1980s, the deal changed. The promise was replaced. It was a subtle switch, a quiet little edit in the social contract. The government and the people in charge no longer promised you a good job. They promised you something else. They promised you low prices and a huge selection of things to buy. You see what happened? The central character in our story was changed. We stopped being citizens or workers. We became something else. We became consumers. It sounds like a small thing, but this shift, this tiny change in vocabulary, was a revolution. It was the beginning of a new kind of control, one so complete, so effective, that it has been called the perfection of slavery. Because what is a perfect slave? It's not someone in chains who dreams of freedom. A perfect slave is someone who doesn't even know they are a slave. It's someone who chooses their own chains every single day. Someone who loves their prison. How do you build a prison like that? You don't use bricks and bars. You use desire. You use envy. You build it out of the human need to be seen, to have status, to feel important. Let's do a little thought experiment. Imagine tomorrow every single person in your town or your school or your company, let's say 500 people, is given $1 million. Cash, no strings attached. Everyone has the exact same amount. What happens next? Use your imagination. What's the first thing you would do? Maybe you'd be smart, pay off your debts, put some away. But then what? You'd buy something you've always wanted. Let's say a house, a really nice house. That's a good purchase, a solid asset. But what's the very next thing you do after you buy the house? After you put the fancy furniture in it, you take pictures and you post them on social media. You have to. You need everyone to see the house. You need them to see your new life. Then your friend sees your post. He sees your huge house. He also has $1 million. What does he do now? He feels a little pang of something. Envy? Competition? He goes out and buys a house too, but his has to be just a little bigger. Maybe it has a pool. And then he posts his pictures. Now a third person sees both houses. She feels like she's falling behind, so she finds an even better house in a more exclusive neighborhood. And on it goes. Very quickly, what happens to this group of 500 people? That $1 million, which seemed like so much money, suddenly isn't enough. Because you're not just buying a house anymore, you're buying status. You're in a race. And in a race like that, there is no finish line. Soon, everyone has spent their million. Then they start borrowing money, going into debt, to buy more things, bigger things, to stay in the competition. But what happens to the people themselves? How do they feel about each other at the end of this process? Do they get together for barbecues at their new houses? Do they help each other out? No, they hate each other. They are filled with jealousy and resentment. They are totally alone, isolated in their beautiful, expensive houses, scrolling through pictures of what everyone else has. They are in debt, and they are divided. This is the system. That little story, that's the engine of consumerism. It's a machine designed to create competition for prestige. It atomizes us. It breaks us down into individuals, obsessed with our own image, our own status. It makes it impossible for us to act together, to organize, to feel any sense of solidarity. An army of individuals is not an army. It's just a crowd of people who can be easily controlled. This process does something to our minds, too. It forces us to adopt what's called economic logic. We start to see the entire world only through the lens of capital, of money. Does this make sense? We do it without even realizing. You've been trained, brainwashed into thinking this is the only way the world works. You might think this is all just a sad accident, a side effect of modern life, that we just became more selfish over time. It's easy to believe that. It's what we're told. But what if it wasn't an accident? What if this prison was built on purpose? Let's go back to the 1980s. The system based on the worker was, for many, a good system. It made society more stable and much more equal. But there's a problem with an equal society, a big problem if you happen to be one of the people at the very, very top. If you're one of the elite, you don't want equality. Equality is a threat to your power. You want difference. You want a huge gap between you and everyone else. So, a decision was made. There was a quiet, organized movement that historians now call the revolt of the elite. It happened in America with the Reagan Revolution. It happened in Britain with Margaret Thatcher. The goal was simple: to transition away from the worker and dismantle the world they had built, to destroy the middle class. But you can't just take things away from people. They'll fight back. You have to give them something else in return, a distraction, a new prize to chase. So they came up with a brilliant idea. They needed a new ideology, a new organizing unit for society that would allow them to gather up all the power and money for themselves. They found that new unit, the consumer. They broke the power of the unions. They told us that the market, if left alone, would solve all our problems. Free market capitalism, neoliberalism. The words sound complicated, but the idea was simple. Let the rich get much, much richer. And in exchange, we promise to make imported TVs and sneakers really cheap. You won't have a secure job, you won't have a voice, but you can buy a lot of cool stuff. Your identity will no longer come from your work, your community, your skills. It will come from what you own, from your brand choices. It was the greatest magic trick in modern history. We were told this was freedom, the freedom to choose between 100 kinds of breakfast cereal. But what kind of freedom is it to be trapped in a cage of your own desires, a cage built and designed by the very people who benefit from your captivity? Once you start seeing the world this way, through this lens of economic logic, you can't stop. It infects everything. It's a virus of the mind. Think about why you went to school. When the worker was the center of society, the answer might have been to learn to expand my mind, to think critically, to become a better citizen. That was the old ideal. What's the answer now? Why are you in school? Be honest, it's to get a good job. And why do you need a good job? To make money. And why do you need money? So you can buy things, a bigger house, a faster car. So you can post it all on social media. The entire purpose of learning has been hollowed out and replaced with a purely economic function. School is no longer a place to build a soul. It's a place to build a resume. It gets darker. It seeps into our relationships, into how we see other human beings. When you're looking for a partner, what do you look for? Of course, you want someone kind, someone funny, but the economic logic is always there, whispering in the background. You ask yourself, how much money does this person have? What is their potential for earning? You don't just fall in love. You analyze them like a stock. Is this a good investment? You start using the language of the market to describe your deepest connections. Everything becomes a transaction. Every person, including yourself, becomes a product to be branded and sold. Your social media profile is your own personal storefront. You are the product. You are selling an image of a happy, successful life. And you are constantly looking at other storefronts, comparing their products to yours. This is not connection. It is permanent, low-grade warfare. So what is the end game here? Where does all this lead? Some thinkers, like Francis Fukuyama, believe that this system, consumerist capitalism, was the end of history. Not because it was perfect, but because it was unbreakable. It is a system that gives the elites exactly what they want: unlimited wealth and power, while keeping the masses so distracted, so indebted, and so divided that they are completely unable to rebel. It achieves control without the need for soldiers in the street. It doesn't need brutal force. The control is psychological. It's a closed loop, a perfect system. You work a job you probably don't like to earn money to buy things. You don't need to impress people you don't even know. And in the moments you feel empty or sad from this meaningless cycle, what is the solution you are offered? Go buy something else. The disease is sold to you as the cure. This is the perfection of slavery, a prison where the inmates are also the guards, policing each other. A system where rebellion becomes impossible, not because it's forbidden, but because it's unthinkable. You can't fight a system when you don't even see it, when its logic has become your logic, when its desires have become your desires. We are living in that future. This isn't a warning about what's to come. This is a description of where we are. We are the most comfortable, well-fed, entertained slaves in the history of the world. And we are told every single day that this is what it means to be free. For generations, we have been handed a mirror and told it is a window. A window looks out onto the world. It connects you to others, to nature, to reality. But we were given a mirror instead, and we have spent our lives looking at it, perfecting our own reflection, making sure it looks happy, successful, and desirable. We polish it with the right clothes, the right car, the right vacation photos. We curate it, we build it, we become a product, a perfect, smiling, desirable product. And a perfect product never ever asks, who owns the store?